A very scary situation.
And that was actually what I was going to ask you. Maybe if you can go into a little more detail for parents that have never been in this situation. And I don't know if you've been in this situation before
No.
either. So maybe from your perspective as a first-time parent going through this, and for other parents that, we pray that they never have to go through this, but what can they expect, and what kind of mindset should they have moving forward?
Just pray. That's all I need to do. Don't try to be big-headed. Don't try to be a big head and go in there and interrupt what the law enforcement is trying to do. Let them do their job. I know it's hard to do as a dad or a mom to sit back, but just let the pros handle the situation and get it under control. And when you get your kids in your hands, just don't ever not cherish another moment.
Wow. Wow, that's all I can say with that is wow. Something else that comes to my mind, you mentioned the pros. How does it make you feel as a parent to know that law enforcement responded the way that they did at the middle school, and also here, at the site of where you're picking up your children? It's pretty secure in here.
Yes, it's very secure. It's coming in. I saw all kinds of law presence coming in, and go just watching the news broadcasts and everything. Law enforcement couldn't express my gratitude just for being on scene, getting there quickly, and taking control of the situation.
All right, and the last question for you two, were you able to undergo any training since you've been in school? Did you feel prepared for a situation like this?
Yeah, I did.
What about you?
Yeah.
And I guess are you glad you've had trainings to know what to do in a situation like this? Now, a lot of times we can say that we know what we would do when something happens, but you really don't until it happens.
Absolutely.
So again, do you feel like the training prepared you?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you two are doing okay, and I'm glad you're able to hug your children again.
Yes.
Okay.
So I really appreciate it. We'll go ahead. I'm live here in Greenville County. This is Rashad Williams, WYFF News 4. We'll send it back to you in the studio. Wow, some moving words here from this family.
Rashad, thank you very much. And yes, as that father said, just pray. There's so many people who are affected by what happened today. And as that father just said, pray.
And pray and stay out of the way. It was nice to hear him express that gratitude to law enforcement for locking everything down so quickly. But it is heartbreaking when you hear middle school students say, and I'm quoting here, "I heard a gunshot," and it was a very, very sad to hear a gunshot. This is something that they are processing now inside of Brookwood Church. That is where all 750 plus students were taken, plus all of the faculty and staff of Tanglewood Middle School, so that they will stage there, and then they will leave one at a time, and they will literally log out. They'll make sure that every single student and staff member is accounted for, and while they are there, again, this is part of the active shooter protocol. One of the final steps is making sure that there are mental health professionals, counselors available, so that they can talk to these students and the parents and guardians immediately. Don't wait until they go home. Process it, begin that processing of this right now.
And that is what's happening at Brookwood Church. But at Tanglewood Middle, there's a whole investigation that is taking place right now. The Greenville County Sheriff Hobart Lewis said basically the middle school is a crime scene right now, that they're going to spend hours searching the school, going through every nook and cranny of the building. And remember, when people were evacuated or walked out, escorted out of the building, they don't say, all right, go get all your bags and get all your stuff and carry it with you on the bus. No, you leave all that stuff there. So all those bags, all that stuff, officers are going to have to look through, because that is an active crime scene. They have to look for guns or any evidence involved in the shooting for their investigation.
And fortunately, it seems that sheriff's officers were able to determine pretty quickly that there was only one shooter. He was acting alone. And also to be able to find him, to locate him. They did locate him just off the school grounds. He wasn't far away. Sheriff Hobart Lewis said that it was a young man, a juvenile, who was hiding from deputies. But when he saw the deputies and they told him to come, he didn't put up any resistance. Again, one student, a middle school male, has been shot, was transported to the hospital. We do not have a condition yet for the victim in this shooting, but we will continue to follow that for you. A heartbreaking situation today unfolding in Greenville, South Carolina, just before 12:30. a school resource officer at Tanglewood Middle School reporting that gunshots were fired. Law enforcement, hundreds of law enforcement from multiple law enforcement agencies responded to the scene immediately. The school was locked down. Greenville County School Superintendent Burke Royster was immediately on the scene to help with logistics of getting the students out. As Nigel mentioned momentarily, just a moment ago, it was an incredibly impressive scene to see immediately, before an hour. 25 to 40 school buses lined up, each one escorted by law enforcement, as law enforcement formed a human barrier on either side of the sidewalk. Students came out of the school very quietly in single file. They loaded onto those school buses. They were escorted to Brookwood Church, some 15 miles away in Simpsonville. But again, all of this is planned ahead of time, that if there's an active shooter, here is the protocol that will be put in place. The sheriff and Dr. Royster in their news conference shortly after 2 o'clock could not have been more could not have praised other law enforcement agencies or one another more. It's very important to note that Greenville County Sheriff's Office has a dedicated unit dedicated just to Greenville County schools. And Greenville County is sort of an unusual county in that it's one of the largest counties in the state, the most populous, but it has one school district. And we have one sheriff's office. And so they work together to streamline the process. And today, sadly, one student has been shot, but the process is streamlined. The shooter, the person believed to be the shooter, is in custody. Everyone was moved out. The sheriff has reported that no one else was injured, and it was calm and it was orderly. And hopefully, Nigel, that will help tonight as the students process all of this with their parents, grandparents, and guardians, that there was no further chaos after the shooting. Everything was calm and orderly after that shooting.
It was. And the Greenville County School District is the largest school district in the state of South Carolina. And my phone was just ringing a short time ago from the Greenville County School District, letting me know that the buses for my kids' school, I've got an elementary school student, a middle school student, and a high school student, letting me know that the buses that my kids would use are delayed. So there are a number of schools all over Greenville County School District that are dealing with delays because of the situation that played out at Tanglewood Middle School. So many buses were needed at that school to transport everyone to where they need to go. So basically, the situation is still unfolding, and it is going to be a long night as we figure out what happened and the condition of the young man that was shot, what's going to happen tomorrow, and there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. I'm going to recap real quick that approximately 12:30 p.m. Greenville County Schools had reports of shots fired inside the building at Tanglewood Middle School. The school resource officer immediately responded and notified law enforcement. Multiple law enforcement agencies responded to the scene. One student has been transported to the hospital. Their condition is not known at this time. All the students were taken to Brookwood Church, and that is where they were reunited with their parents or their guardian. That address, in case you need it, is 580 Brookwood Point Place in Simpsonville, and that is where the reunions are taking place. In order to get your student, you have to have identification. In order to pick up your student, you have to have identification. Parents not able to pick up their students at Tanglewood, but one of our reporters was talking to a mom at Tanglewood who was arriving for a meeting right after the shooting had taken place, and she said she saw officers with long guns running and surrounding the school. She's in the parking lot. She wanted to get in the school. The officers were like, "You cannot get in the school. Get back in your car." So that mom then had to leave and figure out what was going on, knowing that something very serious had just taken place in her child's school. There's so many reunions that we've been seeing taking place as Sky 4 sees parents and guardians hugging their children as they walk out of Brookwood Church after being reunited with their loved ones. Again, the situation started around 12:30 and it has been unfolding, and we have a long night ahead of getting some questions answered about the suspect, about the victim, and about how everything played out and what happens next. We have been following breaking news all afternoon of a school shooting in Greenville County.
Continuing coverage now. This is to recap what we can tell you about what happened. The first call came in just before 12:30 this afternoon. A school resource officer at Tanglewood Middle School called for help after a student was shot. The accused shooter is now in custody. We do not right now have an update on the condition of the student who was shot. We want to send you out to our Kylie Jones, who has been on scene since students were let out this afternoon. She is joining us now live from Tanglewood Middle School in Greenville. Kylie.
And Gabby, this is the closest we've been able to get all day. We are now in front of Tanglewood Middle School, but of course you can see behind me it is taped off. There are still dozens of deputy and law enforcement cars still on the scene. They, like you guys have been saying, have a long night of investigating and a long couple days and couple weeks ahead of them to investigate. I'll give you a look at the scene behind me. I'll step out of the way. Again, lots of law enforcement cars still at Tanglewood Middle School. The school, again, has been completely evacuated. We saw a number of school buses coming along Old Easley Bridge Road earlier this afternoon. They were just waiting in a long line, waiting to get those children and bring them to Brookwood Church, where they can be reunified in Simpsonville with their parents. And again, just an extremely emotional day for all of these families. Some of those students WYFF has talked to had said they heard the gunshots, they saw the commotion, of course, in their classrooms, and they just said it was quite a scary situation. But we'll continue to keep you updated throughout the evening and into the night on this situation. But Gabby, Nigel, I'll toss back to you.
Kylie, thank you very much. And again, the bus situation right now is one of the big stories playing out at this moment. So we've got a lot of students all over Greenville County who are going to have to pack some patience and wait as their bus gets to the school to pick them up. So right now, logistically, the Greenville County School District is trying to deal with all of that as well.
You've been talking about for hours now with you and Jane on air about that tremendous response from law enforcement actually escorting those buses that took those Tanglewood Middle School students to Brookwood Church in Simpsonville. Yeah. A beautiful picture there, and certainly some confidence for those students. Yeah,
it was amazing to see, and every one of those buses were being escorted by law enforcement. So law enforcement has had a day. Again, this all unfolding pretty much around 12:30 and continuing to unfold right now as we begin the 4 o'clock newscast.
Breaking news. This is WYFF News 4 at 4.
And we do want to get right to that breaking news that we've been following all afternoon of a school shooting in Greenville County.
The first call came in just before 12:30. A school resource officer at Tanglewood Middle School called for help after a student was shot. The accused shooter is in custody right now. We do not have an update on the condition of the student who was shot.
We want to send you back out now to our Kylie Jones. She has been on the scene since the students were let out earlier this afternoon, continuing our coverage, telling us how it's looking there on the ground. Kylie, what can you tell us?
Yeah, and Gabby and Nigel, this is the closest we have been able to get to the actual scene all day. We are finally in front of Tanglewood Middle School. It is still taped off. Behind me, I'll give you a quick look. Still dozens of law enforcement cars on the scene. Now we have some exclusive Sky 4 video of the scene throughout the day today. More than 200 deputies were on this scene surrounding the entire Tanglewood Middle School area as deputies tried to lock that scene down and tried to get those students to safety. Again, if you've been with us this afternoon, you know that one student was shot and taken to the hospital. The shooter was taken into custody. The sheriff says nearby Tanglewood Middle School. The sheriff says that shooter was also a student. Both the victim and the shooter, according to the sheriff, were two young men. Now, we spoke to some parents just trying to get in touch with their children this afternoon as the scene unfolded. Hear what one mother had to say about this emotional, chaotic few moments.
I just dropped them off this morning, like I was telling other mothers. I was dropping them off in school, and I told them, I love you, you have a great day. I hope you do good in your test, because they were testing. And then next thing you know is I get a call from another parent say, have you heard? And I'm like, have I heard what? They're like, there's a shooting going on in the school. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, yes, they're shooting as we speak. My son, I was talking to him, and they were shooting as we were speaking.
And again, most importantly, what we do know right now is that student who was shot is in the hospital. The shooter, also a student, was taken into custody. Again, Sheriff Hobart Lewis says that all happened very close to Tanglewood Middle School here right now. Again, many days, nights, weeks of investigation ahead. It's unclear if Tanglewood Middle School will have school tomorrow, but Superintendent Royster says that decision will come later today, possibly tonight. We'll continue to keep you guys updated with live team coverage. For now, live in Greenville County, I'm Kylie Jones, WYFF News 4.
Kylie, thank you. And more than 100 law enforcement officers responded to the scene this afternoon.
The Greenville County Sheriff has said that the students and staff work seamlessly, putting practice drills into action. Our Taggart House joins us now with the latest. Taggart.
Nigel, yeah, we've been talking about this for a little bit. First, I just want to step off. We are just down from where Kylie is, but we've got another view here of Tanglewood Middle School. You can actually see, in some cases, you've got some of the deputy cars out there, and there is at the front of the parking lot what looks to be a bus. That's actually the Greenville County Sheriff's command vehicle. That is set up. That actually moved about 10 minutes ago from a location more so across the street from the school. So we are seeing a bit more movement, at least heading into the school. But yes, you talk about the swift response here. We know the call coming in around 12:30 from the school resource officer. Officials with the school, as well as officials with the sheriff's office and other law enforcement agencies, wasting no time to get here. In fact, really within the hour, you had students that were being escorted on the bus, and they had escorts, as was mentioned a few minutes ago, by law enforcement vehicles. So there has been a very busy day here for law enforcement. We then heard from the sheriff a couple of hours ago and the school superintendent here, Dr. Burke Royster, and both of them really with a glowing review of just the protocols that were followed here and then the response by law enforcement officers.
Is you absolutely have the best law enforcement anybody could have. You have our county deputies, obviously, the city police department. Chief Thompson sent numerous officers over here. The state law enforcement division has officers over here. The ATF, FBI, DEA, school officers who work school security showed up over here. All those people converged on this scene to secure it very quickly.
And I'm not sure, even after a full and thorough law enforcement investigation, anyone will really know what was going through the mind of that young person that took this rash act. So I don't know that there's anyone will ever know except that person, and they may not be able to articulate it for you.
Right, we know there are a lot of questions too about the suspect in this. During that press conference, we heard very little information, as expected, at this stage of the investigation, other than that suspect is in custody. And at the time of that press conference about 2 hours ago, that suspect had not yet been interviewed by police. The sheriff saying the reason for that is because there are protocols and procedures that are in place. At that point in time, they were not doing that. But I have to tell you, as much as the response here was heavy, you had all kinds of different agencies helping out. Also the school buses, right? We had about 25 to 40 school buses that were helping get these kids away. The superintendent did say at the time that that was likely going to impact at least getting some of those students in other schools within the district back. Those schools, the parents and
also mentioned that parents, as of right now, this is certainly a lesson or obligation for them to talk to their kids, let them know that, picking up guns to try and deal with a situation is not the way to go. So as of right now, a lot of happy family members, again, reuniting with their loved ones, getting back to some type of normalcy. You can only imagine, what these kids are going to be dealing with, what they're going to be thinking about, especially as the day go on, and especially as they return back to school, being in those halls. I spoke with one kid. She said that she was in the auditorium and they had to stand behind some curtains when the shots started firing off. So, there are going to be a lot of stories coming out of this whole situation. There's going to be a lot that these kids are going to be thinking, a lot that they're going to be feeling, and we just have to hope and pray that, of course, that they're going to be okay and learn how to rationalize and process what has happened to them today. We're live here in Simpsonville or Malden. I'm Jarvis Robertson. Back to you.
Jarvis, thank you for that update. We'll come back to you in just a little bit. But right now we're heading to our team coverage with our Teresa Bowles, who has been live outside of Prisma Health, where we can tell you that is where the gunshot victim has been taken and transported there. They had a law enforcement escort as well to get them to the hospital, to the trauma unit as soon as possible. Teresa, you've been out there for quite some time now. What does that look like around the hospital? Have you seen maybe any family members or anyone from the school arrive there to Prisma?
Yeah, there are people going in and out. I'm just not sure. I'm not able to walk over there and ask these people who they are. I don't want to make any assumptions or put anything out there that I can't confirm, but plenty of people, including law enforcement presence, have been going in and out of the hospital, I'm assuming handling some kind of business. But again, I have not been able to confirm with the sheriff's office or any other law enforcement officers if that is connected to what happened in the middle school. I've been trying my best to figure out how to get in contact with family or anyone else that can confirm any of that. But all we know is that the student is here, and we are waiting for any information about the identification. I have heard a lot of rumors, but we have not been able to confirm anything as of right now. But we will keep checking, and we will keep trying for you. Live in Greenville, Teresa Bowles, Fox Carolina News.
Yeah, just to reiterate again, as Teresa was just saying, there are a lot of unconfirmed rumors out there. There's a lot of information. I've been seeing differing reports, and until something's confirmed about the victim or the suspect or who these kids, teens are, we're not reporting it. No. And so, and I suggest that you please don't share those rumors online as well. When something happens, we're going to let you know immediately. We've been doing live on-air coverage for hours now, telling you information as we get it. We have team coverage out there, and so I know that this is something a lot of people are talking about, and we're going to continue to be on top of it.
And you don't want to be spreading anything because it's just making the situation worse. These are children we're talking about, so remember that, and we will bring you that confirmed information as soon as we have it right here on air.
Yes, and now we want to send things back out to Brookwood Church, where the pickup point is for these Tanglewood students and faculty, staff, everybody out there. Brooke Lee is on scene right now. Brooke Lee, I know that you've been speaking with students, and I believe that you're speaking with another student right now.
Yeah, I'm here with Jacqueline. Jacqueline, what grade are you in?
I'm in 7th grade.
All right, Jacqueline, tell me, what was it like inside your school today?
It was something I didn't expect to happen today. It was I don't know,
was it terrifying? Was it scary?
Yes.
What did you do whenever the school went on lockdown? Where were you at?
I was in the hallway when it happened, and as soon as I heard the 2 shots, I grabbed my friend and I went to the nearest classroom because I didn't want, my friend to get hurt. So I didn't know what to do, really, honestly. But
so you actually heard the shots?
Yes.
How many?
2. I heard 2.
What did people do when, what did other students do what was it like in that moment those shots went off?
It was just like, for a second, it kind of went quiet, I ain't gonna lie. But we started running, too. Like, it got quiet, and then we ran. Yeah.
What do you think? I asked another student this as well just a few minutes ago. What do you think could be done to make you feel safer in school?
Honestly, it's just to be like more closer to adults and to the people who know they're doing, Yeah.
How did the teachers react today?
I feel like they honestly were terrified too, because. Well, yeah, and I don't know. I feel like they were kind of stressed too because, they had to help the kids out and everything.
How are all the other students? How are they acting?
To the close friends to him were upset. They were crying. I saw my friend cry. It was something really, really sad for them.
And you just have reunited with your mom, right?
Yeah, already.
How did your mom react? Did you give her a big hug?
Yes. She was relieved that she saw me. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're safe and that you've been reunited with your mom. Thanks for talking to me.
Okay, thank you.
And we will be out here outside Brookwood Church talking to parents and students. There's still
Yes, and also, yeah, don't forget Myra's out here with me.
I'm trying to get pictures of the parents with their kids.
And she's trying to get pictures, just so you guys know she's out here too. And who's in the booth right now that can hear me? Hello? Okay, I'm working. I think I'm gonna get a live interview with a sheriff. So stand by for that. And when you see me with him, if we can just cut out what we're doing, he's gonna talk to me live. That's the plan. I'm working on that right now. I'll just do something quick. I'm not going to say that yet because I just texted him. He's working to get over here to us, so it might be a few minutes. I just want to let you know to have that ready. It'll be Sheriff Hobart Lewis for a live super and stuff. Okay.
Welcome back. We are following that breaking news that we've been following now for hours since it happened at 12:30, a shooting that happened at Tanglewood Middle School. We've been working to get answers. We do have team coverage all morning, or excuse me, all afternoon long for you. I'm still working off the mornings, and
Margaret
of course
here
we've been,
after being up early. So
yeah, but we've had people out in the field for you, and of course we want to head now to Cody Alcorn, who's been out there minutes after it actually happened. You were on scene as EMS and first responders were still arriving on the scene there at Tanglewood Middle.
Yeah, that's right, and it's really calmed down a lot right now. And what I can tell you is I'm working to get the sheriff over here with me. I think he's going to talk with me for a couple of minutes live about the response here and what's happening. I've also been told we should be getting an update from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office in the newsroom within the minutes here. So stand by for that. But when the sheriff does break away and get over here, we're going to talk to him for a little bit about just what's transpired here, the response. They were actually taking that student over there. You're a mom.
Yes.
You have a kid. I can't imagine getting that news one way or the other and responding to a school and not knowing if your student or your kid is one of the victims.
So when we pulled up to the scene, we were meeting up with a lot of parents who were still trying to get answers. They had heard that something had happened, but they were unable to get through to their children who were at the school. So for a while, there were a lot of very emotional moments, a lot of confusion and angst amongst the parents there. Now, one thing is that some of them were complaining that they were not notified. The school district and the sheriff's office pointed out that is why you are supposed to fill out those forms for an emergency contact, because they did send out notifications to the parents using those emergency phone numbers. So they reminded everyone that's why it's very important to make sure you fill those out, because a lot of those parents did not get notified, perhaps because their number was not provided as the appropriate contact. But as we pulled up to the scene, a lot of parents were worried, asking, if they could get to the school. Of course, they could not, so they were being sent to Brookwood Church. And there were deputies at the scene trying to calm them down, allay their fears, doing that pretty relieved. She just got out of Brookwood with her son, so a lot of emotional, a very emotional day, and a lot of relief from so many people, as you can imagine, Cody.
Yeah, and Myra, it's sad because again, for two families today, their lives forever changed. That would be the victim and the suspect. But again, any student that was in there, faculty or teachers, from this point forward, it's going to never be the same. So
right.
Again, we'll have much more coverage. We're waiting on the sheriff. Hopefully, we'll have a live interview with him coming up in just a few minutes.
Cody, Myra, thank you for that team coverage. We'll check in with you in a few minutes. But
Spartanburg, and it's still gusty up where we have the wildfire ongoing in eastern Tennessee. That's not helpful, but at least they did get some rain to kind of moisten things up there. So in your weather headlines, a chilly night is ahead, a few, in fact, going into this weekend. Some mild sunny days, so our storm threat is done. We can relax for a little bit on that regard, but our next storm will arrive Tuesday, and that one could pack severe weather. Here's a look at your next 3 days. It's going to stay breezy on Friday, but Saturday, Sunday look actually really, really nice. So a great reward after what we all had to deal with this morning with that heavy rain for your morning commute. We'll continue to bring you updates as we move forward. But again, the severe weather threat is over and rain is not coming over the next 3 days.
All right, well, coming up, we are continuing our on-air coverage live from out in the field, team coverage of the shooting that sent at least one student to the hospital at Tanglewood Middle School. We have live coverage when we return after this quick break. Following our breaking news this morning, tossing things out to Cody this afternoon as he's talking with the sheriff.
That's right. I have Sheriff Hobart Lewis here with me. And Sheriff, it's one of those things you guys train for a lot, but you never want to see happen in your county. We started getting word of deputies, police, other agencies responding from all over the county. Can you walk us through how you guys trained for this and the response that we saw here, because this is something we don't typically see around this area?
Well, you have a couple of issues here. We conduct lockdown drills throughout all the schools in Greenville County. We work very closely with the school district as well as staff at different schools to train for something like this happening. Obviously, you hope it never does, but today it did. So around 12:30 today, we got a call from the SRO at the school who asked for emergency assistance. A number of deputies and police officers responded right away. They knew a shooting had occurred. So we had well over 200 law enforcement officers throughout the county. You had SLED, the Highway Patrol, the FBI, ATF, DEA, everybody that was available. Greenville City, they just did a tremendous job. And so the other side of that is everybody being able to communicate with each other and know what their expectations are and know what the responsibilities are. Our folks did a tremendous job of setting up a command post right away at the school, at the entrance to the school, and start sending different, deputies, police officers, troopers, some of those things, in different parts of the school because we didn't know where the suspect was at that time. So the first thing they want to do is secure the school and make sure the school's safe. And you also have somebody at that time that was rendering aid to the victim who had been shot. So it was a pretty dynamic situation.
As I was standing right here, actually, behind us by that gray home, I saw that young man being arrested. That's a couple hundred yards away from the school. I know you can't talk a lot about the investigation. You're still trying to figure out, your guys are themselves, what happened. It's a pretty good way. So is it our understanding that he opened fire and then ran out of the school and was somewhere? Because I saw him right by this gray home.
So far, what we know is that the shooting occurred inside the school, and what you saw was our suspect. So I can tell you that. He didn't get too far away. He was not still in the school. That was our concern initially, that he was somewhere else in the school. How many shots had been fired? Was it even a student? We didn't know. So once we got the information from inside the school, from the SRO, and identified who that was, we were able to locate him pretty quickly.
And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I know there's probably a parallel of investigations going on, especially this kid being a middle school student. How in the world he got a gun, how he got into school, and what made this happen today. Can you talk about the complexity of an investigation like this when you have a kid who brought a gun to school and decided to open fire?
Well, this investigation in particular has a lot of different arms, a lot of different angles it's fixing to take, for sure, and you do have to follow up on those things. The flip side of it is starting school tomorrow. What happens here at Tanglewood? What do the students that come back to school? We need to have deputies here. We need to have counselors here and all those things. Did anybody know that this young man was going to bring a gun to school? Was this a social media type situation that we didn't pick up on, or somebody at school didn't report, maybe a classmate or whatever the case? So it's not a very large investigation inside the school where it occurred, but it just has so many different tentacles, to be honest, you have to follow up on. It's going to be pretty complex.
And this was around lunchtime. I don't know if you mentioned this in the news conference. I was down here, but do we know if it's a classroom where the SRO was compared to the shooting? Again, you had an SRO inside the school. Is there anything you mentioned on that? I know people have asked us about that.
We didn't really release anything, but I can tell you now that it was the SRO was not very far from where it occurred. He was in a different room, if you will. And it occurred more in a hallway inside the school toward the front.
And I don't want to put you on the spot for anything else, but I know people have asked us too, was this one of those that you think it was a targeted shooting, a random? Because again, when we heard school shooting, are there going to be victims or one victim? And to know that guy was already outside after the shooting seems like he ran as soon as he did what he chose to do.
It certainly appears that he ran off as soon as he fired the shot. But we don't know the details of why he did what he did or why he picked that particular person, why that person was the victim. That's probably, they are obviously following up on that now. He's been arrested. He is at the law enforcement center being interviewed. I don't even know if he's talking at this point or has anything to say, but we should find that out with some video evidence and some of those things in the school. We should have a pretty good indication of how it played out.
And I talked to you a moment ago. I want to talk about the response here. You know, your deputies show up. You know, they show up here and their first instinct, they have to go in and try to alleviate the threat. A lot of your deputies are parents themselves. I can't imagine when your deputies show up here and there's a middle school student on the ground bleeding out. I mean, this has got to be taking a toll on your men and women who respond here, because a lot of them even might have students at the school.
We do, and a lot of deputies that responded out here, as well as other police officers, will be offered some assistance, if you will, some counseling, and we have a great wellness program at the Sheriff's Office. Major Miller does a great job managing that and getting people in, but it's tough. You know, the really hard part is the fact that a lot of the kind of rough and tough persona that comes with law enforcement, people don't want to talk about issues that maybe they've been holding on to for a while. This is obviously going to be a nationwide type broadcast. It's going to get a lot of attention, but these men and women do this every day. They respond to a shooting every day that's probably relatable to their own lifestyle somehow or their own family. It's a tough situation.
And you mentioned this is going to catch, it already has national attention. It comes back with guns, how to keep these out of school. It's a middle school student. The last school shooting we've had here, I was out at Townville Elementary School. It was a little bit different case. That kid came from, that's a whole different case. But what do you want people to know about this happening here in Greenville County? And I mean, you're the head law enforcement. I mean, what's the next move here? What do you take from this?
Well, we have a great relationship with Greenville County Schools. They work really hard with us. Obviously, we talked about lockdown drills and training and all those things. Our metal detectors in the future at Greenville County Schools, we don't know. We do know they've looked at that. Obviously, any type of weapon being brought into a school. You know, it's unfortunate that kids today look at so much violence and they think that the end result, you know, I'm sure this young man don't have any idea really what the end result was going to be when he shot this young man. He probably knew he was going to shoot him. He didn't know if he was going to die or live. But after it happened, you know, what was this young man thinking? What was he going through? I'm almost positive he didn't realize what was fixing to happen to him. So it's a terrible situation. We got deputies. We're very fortunate here. We got deputies in elementary schools. We got them in middle schools and high schools. But again, you know, obviously it put no fear in this young man. For some reason, he chose to bring a gun to school today. And we don't know how many guns come into schools that we don't catch. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, nothing has happened up to this point. But you know, how many firearms are actually brought in, or knives, or some of those things? And again, you know, kids resort to the extreme amount of violence today versus what they did 30 years ago. You know, it's not a fist fight anymore. Somebody breaks a weapon out, and it's a tragic set of events that occur.
All right. Well, Sheriff, I know you got a lot of work to do. Thanks for taking some time for us.
Sir.
And again, there's a lot of questions still left here. I talked to the sheriff right before we went on the air. He can't answer a lot of the questions you likely have at home. I know the main thing is, how is this student doing? The sheriff's not the one to confirm that. We're working to get those details. But the matter of fact, the end result here, our lives have been changed forever, no matter what. And this is going to be a conversation that goes on for weeks, months, and years. We've seen after Townville Elementary, we still do follow-ups there. So this is just the beginning of a long process for a lot of different topics following the shooting here at Tanglewood Middle School.
Thank you for getting that interview with Sheriff Lewis. We appreciate his time, and we'll continue to follow up with you in the next hour.
Coming up after the break, we are continuing our live team coverage from people out in the field, getting live interviews for you and updates every few this afternoon. We're back right after this.
Mic check, 1 2 3 2 2 3. Hello, hello.
Welcome back. We continue to follow breaking news of the shooting at Tanglewood Middle School in Greenville County, and we want to give you this update. If you are a parent and you have a student in Greenville County schools, Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent actually just gave me her phone because you should have received a voicemail from the school district saying, "This is Greenville County Schools calling to let you know there will be delays to all bus routes this afternoon due to an incident at middle school today. Thank you for your patience and understanding." We did hear from the superintendent earlier in a press conference how they said about 25 to 40 buses were actually being rerouted to bring those students and staff to Brookwood Church from Tanglewood.
Yeah, we've been reporting all afternoon for you that we knew that there would be delays for all Greenville County schools, but that robocall did just go out to, of course, all the parents across Greenville County schools to expect delays because they had to call in extra bus drivers and buses to get those kids and faculty from Tanglewood all the way to, of course, Brookwood. Now we want to turn things over to Teresa Bowles. She is outside of Prisma Hospital. Behind you is where that student who was shot was taken earlier around 12:30, 12:45 today.
Yeah, and of course, we're all sending our well wishes and prayers for that student's recovery and that they'll be okay, but no updates on that student's condition, on the injuries, and I haven't talked to any parents outside of the hospital or seen anyone who was able to confirm that they knew this student. We are waiting to hear more information from PIOs, but nothing is coming through right now. I've been checking with them as much as I can to get updates, digging around online just to see if there's any new information I can provide to you that can be confirmed, but as of now, nothing else has been confirmed outside of that. Again, things are still calm out here right now. Haven't seen any more law enforcement officers pull up or anything like that. It's pretty much the same as it's been for the past few hours. So we're just hoping that everything is okay with that student. That's all we can say for now. Live in Greenville, Teresa Bowles, Fox Carolina News.
All right, Teresa, thank you. And again, as a reminder, we're seeing a lot of rumors swirling on social media right now about the victim, about the suspect. Just remember, please don't share anything. We do not have anything confirmed at this point, but we are working to get you the latest information on air. Stay with us.
I'll be right back.
You want me to tilt down or? Well, no, it's fine. I just zoom in just a little bit, just so there won't be a lot of headroom. There we go.
Welcome back. We are continuing our breaking news coverage for you as we follow the school shooting at Tanglewood Middle School that happened around 12:30. We have been on air covering this for you for several hours now, heading into hour 5 at this point. We've got live team coverage on the ground in different areas. We've got Cody, who has been at Tanglewood Middle School. We have reporters right now that we want to go to. Jarvis Robertson, who is outside of Brookwood Church in Simpsonville. That is where students and faculty from Tanglewood were taken. We can see them still coming out behind you hours after they were transported.
Yeah, that's right, Mac. They're coming out in waves, so at some point it dies down, then out of nowhere you see more and more coming out. I'm going to step out of the way so you guys can see more of what I'm seeing. Probably about 10 minutes ago, I interviewed another student who was inside, brought here to Brookwood Church here in Simpsonville. He told me that officers or school administration, they bust into his classroom. They told them that this was not a drill to get up, put their hands up, and get ready to move out of the building. Guys, he told me in that moment he was very concerned. He was hoping that his parents, or he was hoping that he did not die. I want to take you guys right here. I actually spoke with this grandmother and this mother right here. Paula, how are you? I spoke with you over near the school early. You were concerned about getting here to get your kids or grandkids. You got them. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling blessed. They ain't hurt or nothing, and they kind of calmed down, and so I'm glad that they all right. I mean, I just kept in the, Jesus' arms.
Kept praying. I mean, that's what a lot of people have been doing. You told me earlier that you were concerned about getting over here because of possible transportation issues. You guys found a way. You guys are going to find a way back to your home, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Knowing that you have laid eyes on your family member, your children, how does that make you feel?
So happy. I'm glad. Thank the Lord. They're safe.
Would you mind if we asked her a few questions on air?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you mind talking to us, sweetie? It'll be very. You guys are shy. That's totally fine. They're a little bit shy, guys, and we completely understand. Were there still a lot of kids left inside?
Yeah. A bunch of them. Mostly. Well, yeah. I'd say yeah.
What is the process? So when you guys go in to get the kids, do you guys have to sign them out or anything?
Well, they make you sign a piece of paper, put their name on it, and then they tell you which pod to go to, and then you gotta wait until they call their name, and then you.
So it's 4:45 now. What time did you get here?
What time did we get here? Around 3:30.
Okay, so probably about an hour and 15 minutes it took you guys to get your kids and get out.
Yeah.
No problem. Well, I'm glad that you guys are safe, and thank you so much for talking to us. You have a good day, okay? Thank you so much, Paula. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're welcome. So, as you can imagine, guys, this is a lengthy process. She got here around 3:30, and she's just now getting her kids. So, imagine all the people that are still trying to get to their kids right now, that are still inside waiting to get them out. So, we're going to still be here on scene. We're going to continue talking to some people and continue to bring you all updates. We're live here in Simpsonville. I'm Jarvis Robertson, Fox Carolina News.
Jarvis, thank you. And again, we're so glad those families are able to finally reunite with those students.
Absolutely. Well, we want to switch gears right now, and we do want to go back to weather. I know that it was a major concern this morning as we were covering some possible flooding out there, some severe storms that were moving into our area. Just thankful now that it's all died down.
Yes, it's much more calm and clear. The sunshine even coming out, Kendra.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. We've got drier conditions on the way, and the severe weather threat for our area has been removed. It's shifted off to the east, even though we're still watching a couple showers try to pop in the mountains. Most of that severe weather shifting to the eastern Carolinas, where an ongoing tornado watch continues. We're watching this one cell in northern McDowell County, a little heavy rain. It's going to be shifting out of the county and out of our immediate area here shortly, but there's still just enough energy where we could end up seeing something severe develop, but it's a pretty low likelihood at this point. Heavy downpour, though. It's going to be moving along 221 and moving out of our area. And the rest of the spots in our viewing area are completely dry, and we're seeing that sunshine in the upstate, which has been nice. We're getting the wind. It's picking up, 23-mile-an-hour wind in Greenville, 21 in Asheville, and we'll continue to see this over the next few hours, but it will let up overnight a bit. So we'll see still some gusts, but otherwise it'll get a little less windy. 46 for the upstate tonight, and in the mountains looking at the low 40s. So storm threat is done, and we'll be looking ahead to some beautiful weather for Friday, Saturday, as well as Sunday. Mostly sunny skies. Now, temperatures at night will be chilly, like what I showed you, 40s. That's going to be the case even into tomorrow night. We'll even find some 30s in the mountains. But through the weekend, looks great. Our next storm chance comes on Tuesday, and we'll talk more about that in upcoming days, guys.
All right, Kendra, thank you. We're going to head to break right now, but we will continue our live coverage of the shooting at Tanglewood Middle School in Greenville County. We have live crews still on scene there. Also stationed outside of Prisma Health Hospital, where the victim was brought, and outside Brookwood Church in Simpsonville, where all those students and staff are being reunited with their families this afternoon. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As we enter the 5 o'clock hour, we continue our coverage of the school shooting here in Greenville County at Tanglewood Middle School. Happened about 12:30 this afternoon, and we have been on air since a little after 1 o'clock for you, bringing you extended team coverage. And right now, we are heading out to Simpsonville, Brookwood Church. That's where we know all those students, staff from the middle school were brought after that shooting occurred.
Absolutely. And Fox Carolina's Brooklyn Cromer is out there right now, and of course we want to get to her this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me, Brooklyn. Who are you joined by?
Hi, I'm actually with Jack Logan right now. He's with Put Down the Guns Now, young people organization. Your mission, Jack, is to do exactly this, prevent something like this from happening. What is your message right now for parents, for students?
For students, my message is not to put a gun in your pocket, book bag, or take one to school. Education is more important. And to every parent, you have a responsibility to make sure that your child is not in possession of a gun. And because Jack Logan and the Put Down the Guns Now young people organization, just like every parent, want to see their child, those children, walk across that stage after completing high school. I know this happened at the middle school, and no middle school student should ever possess a gun. We want to see them advance to the next level of high school. Our prayers are with the young person who was shot today at Tanglewood and with his family. Our prayers are with the staff and every other student that attend Tanglewood Middle School.
Jack, one of your really big things that you do is pass out gun locks, free gun locks to anyone in the community that wants one. What are some things that schools can do though to improve safety? Well,
schools can improve safety by as well as allowing people like nonprofits or even law enforcement to come and have gun locks there. And when those parents come around to pick their child up, be right out there saying that you need a gun lock to go on your gun. And tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock, we will be out there by Tanglewood Middle School. If any parent want a gun lock, come and get one. And tonight, we're going to be praying for the young student who was shot, for the young person who pulled the trigger, and also for every staff and every student who attend Tanglewood Middle, because we want to see parents, when they drop their kids off or when they ride the school bus, that child return back home in one piece.
And you mentioned you're going to be praying tonight. You're having a prayer vigil. Tell me, when is that going to be? Where's that going to be at?
It's going to be at 7 o'clock right near Tanglewood Middle School. There's a big open field, and you will see me out there and just pull there, and we're going to pray. Everything have to be ask God for the healing, ask God to keep Satan out of the mindset of our children, and ask God to show our parents and to lead them how to raise their child.
Any message for the community right now, just reeling from this tragedy?
Yes, attended with so many. I remember when little Jacobs got shot. To the community, we must come together, and when you see a child, always acknowledge that child, whether it's in a convenience store, because you never know when a child is hurt or troubled about something, but a smiling face can change the mindset of any child. The person who did this, I'm going to say this, they probably was already troubled about something that led them up to do this. On yesterday, that same child was in front of somebody somewhere other than their parents, and someone could have said a smile, hello. Always smile and treat people, because we, the public, and we, the people, can help change a child's mindset.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Thank y'all. That's the new young lady I have with you.
Yes, she is. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. And we'll be out here at Brookwood Church for the remainder of the evening. I talked to Tim Waller with Greenville County School District just a few minutes ago off camera. He says that inside there's parents, students, quite a few are still here, and that's because they have counselors there inside. They have at least a dozen or so counselors, and they're talking to parents, talking to students. So we expect to be here for quite a while tonight, and we will continue updating you from here at Brookwood. Back to you.
Thank you for that perspective from Jack Logan, of course. And, you know, it is going to be a process, as Brooklyn just mentioned, because that middle school has about 800 students, and then that doesn't include all the teachers and the staff.
Everyone who had to be shuttled over.
Right.
And we heard from, Alexis Ware earlier, a friend of mine who called and said that her mother was, there. They had to leave all of their things at Tanglewood. Many people did. So they also don't have cell phones, don't know when they're going to get them back. Still don't know if there's going to be school tomorrow. So there's a lot of questions right now, but we are learning new information. And I do want to go back out to Brookwood Church this afternoon. That's where we find Jarvis Robertson right now. Jarvis, you've been out there for some time. Things quiet behind you, but I'm sure, like you said, they're kind of picking up and fluctuating.
Yeah, we still have some people still coming out, parents still filing in to get their students, but for the most part, it's starting to get a little bit quiet here at Brookwood Church. I'm going to step out the way so you guys can see the little bit that is happening here right now. You know, this is a very stressful situation, and for these kids, a lot of them are going to be dealing with that stress, that high anxiety, the emotional damage that comes along with it. So imagine being in school in the middle of the day, all of a sudden you hear shots ringing out, or you see school administration or officers coming into your class rapidly telling you this is not a drill, that you need to get your stuff or just get up and come out and leave your stuff there at the school. So for a lot of the kids, they were bused here. Some of them parents had to make those other arrangements, find ways to get here if they did not have reliable transportation. We've seen several parents coming out, several students coming out, parents and students crying, trying to, you know, make sense of everything that has happened today, also crying and sighing in relief that they're reunited with their loved one after something so tragic happened here or happened at their school today. So as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot of processing going on. There's going to be a lot of rationalizing going on. They're going to have to try and, you know, make sense of everything that has happened today. You know, moving forward, what will school administration say to those students? Will they be back in classroom tomorrow? Going back into the classroom, how are they going to feel? There are a lot of questions. There's a lot that we're going to have to examine to try and make sense of this school shooting. But again, so I mean, guys, for the most part, it's calm here. We still have some parents coming out right now. Let's see. Excuse me, sir. Would you mind talking to us live on air really quick?
I gotta go already.
No problem. I understand. Thank you so much. So, I mean, I've spoken with a lot of parents that have walked past me. A lot of them don't feel comfortable enough to go on air. A lot of them still visibly shaken up, you know, frustrated, upset about what has happened. But again, you know, they are sighing in relief tonight that they are going home with their loved one. So, as we can get more information here, we're going to continue to bring you guys that and keep you guys informed. We are live here in Simpsonville. I'm Jarvis Robertson. Back to you.
All right, Jarvis. And as he just mentioned as well, he spoke with parents. A lot of us have spoken with parents as well who are calling for metal detectors, clear backpacks, basically saying, what is it going to take? What's it going to take to keep guns and weapons out of school? And I will tell you that we do have an interview coming up later on in the show. I'm going to be speaking with Governor Henry McMaster about this issue. And we're going to be asking him about metal detectors, about SRO in every single school. How do we get that? What's it going to take? All of those questions we're taking straight to the leader of our state, the governor. So
yeah, and you know what? We know that you have these concerns. You know, if I was a parent, I would be feeling the same way. You know, I don't think you could really. Mac and I can't really relate to that right now. But all we can do is pray for all of these families dealing with this trauma right now, and just knowing, thankfully, that your children are now safe and you need to keep them safe. And what is it going to take to keep them safe moving forward? This is the utmost importance.
Absolutely. Our continuing coverage starts now.
Fox Carolina, the 5 o'clock news starts now with breaking news.
That breaking news we've been following for you since 12:30 this afternoon with our live team coverage. One student is shot. Another student, a suspect in that shooting, accused of pulling the trigger at Tanglewood Middle School here in Greenville County. It's a devastating situation, one that we've been following for hours now. We have been on air covering this for you for at least 4 hours at this time.
That's right. We've had extended team coverage for you as we continue to learn more information about what exactly went down there at Tanglewood Middle School. 6th to 8th grade students, about 800 of them in that school this afternoon. And we know that their lives certainly changed forever today. Our Myra Ruiz has been live outside of Tanglewood for us this afternoon. And Myra, you spoke with some parents there who have a lot of concerns moving forward, as Margaret Ann and I were just talking about those metal detectors and security measures moving forward.
Yeah, certainly a lot of parents calling for more safety measures in place. Of course, this was totally unpredictable, but the school district does prepare for these kinds of incidents. But nonetheless, emotions were running very high as parents were waiting to hear from their students, their children, who were still at Tanglewood Middle School. We did speak to one of those parents who wants metal detectors there. Her name is Nancy Trejo, and here's what she had to say.
They were trying to call me. I was just crying. I was desperate. I wanted to hear from my son. We need to put some of the metal detectors to go in that school because there's always fighting and all that stuff. And we need to, as parents, get together and go to Greenville County and say they need to protect our kids and put something there so we can know our kids are going to be safe from now on, because at this point I don't want my son to go back to school.
And we did speak to Nancy Trejo after she and her son were reunited within the past hour. She is definitely relieved to have him back in her arms. Also hearing from other parents whose children are very traumatized by what happened. A lot of tears were told as they reunited with their parents, but a lot of relief as well to have their loved ones within arm's reach. So we're hoping to hear a little bit more from those parents and families, but definitely a lot of them are expressing much relief now that they have their loved one back here, but they still have questions as well. Back to you.
Thank you, Myra. Yeah, I can't imagine what those parents are going through right now. But again, a lot of relief, at least, for those picking up their kids at this time. And I know a lot of relief when it comes to the weather. We did not get hit by severe weather today, but lots of the Carolinas did. Had severe weather through Columbia. Tornado reported between Charlotte and Raleigh. But currently, we're looking at mostly clear skies and just a couple showers still popping up. This one has actually moved out of McDowell County over Linville. So really not much to report in our area. We're clearing out. Drier, cooler air will work its way in for the overnight hours. We still have a breeze blowing, and you can see it's actually heightened in eastern Tennessee, where we have those wildfires continuing. So that's going to continue to be an issue over the next couple of days. In fact, it'll stay breezy tomorrow. The wind has changed from the south to the west, which can help a little bit with the fire containment, but it is still not a good situation there. You can see wind speeds 24 miles an hour in Greenville right now, 22 in Asheville. That's as that cooler air is surging in, but it will let up a bit tonight. But we'll continue to watch that as we go into the overnight hours. It'll get chilly, 46 in the upstate, 41 in the mountains. Severe threat is done. We'll look ahead to some much nicer weather as we move forward in the forecast.
Kendra, thank you for that update. We'll check in with you in just a little bit. Our team coverage continues right now. Our Cody Alcorn has been live on scene since this really all started this afternoon around 12:30, and he joins us live right now with some updates.
That's right, Margaret Ann and Tori. The first thing I want to address is the student who was shot just a few hundred yards behind me at Tanglewood Middle School. You heard from the sheriff. It's the first time I heard from him about details inside the school. We know this student, this young man, was shot in a hallway, and the SRO was just a few doors down from this student being shot. I actually saw that student being rushed to Prisma Hospital, an escort from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. I've also seen what's been put out on social media and what some other outlets have put out there as well. I want to tell you one thing, is we do have information that we are gathering. That's what we do. And this is an active investigation. This suspect, who is also a middle school student, is being investigated right now down at the law enforcement center. There's another investigation ongoing right now, likely at this student's house. How did he get this gun? There is a reason how we put out information and when we do it. And we understand that social media gets things a lot faster. But there is a time, and there will be a time at this point, that we will release information regarding this information when it comes from the lead agency who is investigating this tragedy in our community. And that is the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. I can tell you they are the lead in every aspect of this case, and that's not always the case. But I have confirmed with Sheriff Hobart Lewis and other entities of this investigation, all information, once confirmed and once it is releasable, will be done by the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. I understand there are things out on social media, there are other reports, but right now the focus should be on what happened here today and how can we stop it from ever happening again in our community. There are so many families' lives who have been changed today, not just the victims' lives here. Also, the student who brought this gun to school and opened fire, his family is forever changed as well. And then all of those students who walked into Tanglewood Middle School this morning being dropped off by their parents or by a school bus, who went inside to simply get an education today. They were bussed out on buses after shots ring out in their hallway. It is not what anyone expected. That should be the focus right now, and the other details will come out as they are released by the Greenville County Sheriff's Office in the time that the Sheriff's Office would like that timetable to play out. I wanted to address that because, again, we're getting bombarded with these reports, and it's just it's kind of outrageous, actually, because, again, there is a lot of aspects to this investigation. You heard the sheriff mention that when I interviewed him live a few minutes ago. I just want to throw that out there. As far as what's happening right now, we still have a crime scene here behind me. What I can tell you is this will be ongoing for quite some time. That student, the suspect who was arrested just over my left shoulder here, I witnessed him being arrested, is being actively interrogated right now to figure out why this happened. And the sheriff kind of alluded to there is another facet of this investigation. So was this something that they missed? Was it something that might have not been reported to the sheriff's office? And did this transpire outside of school and then brought into the school? Because, again, those shots were fired and the suspect was found outside the school nearby, and only one student was hit, but one too many. So that is where we are this afternoon as of 5 p.m., but this will be a lengthy investigation. Like the sheriff mentioned to me, it's a pretty small investigation because everything happened inside the school. So they'll have surveillance video, they'll have eyewitness account from students, they'll have forensic evidence to kind of put this together. And I'm sure the solicitor's office is working right now with the sheriff's office to determine charges here. We'll see what happens and how this plays out, if this student will be charged as an adult, depending on how this investigation goes. But I will guarantee you, just as we did when we first got on scene, we will give you the information as it's released from the sheriff's office. We will be here throughout the night following this and through this newscast, and at 6. We are expecting another update from the sheriff's office, but they put out a release saying, look, we get it. This is now gaining national attention, and they are just trying to make sure all of the facts are put into place and they have everything lined up in this investigation before they put it out there. They'd rather be right in this investigation, make sure everything is there, and most families are notified before anything goes out to the public. So again, I understand there is a need for that information right now thanks to social media, but stay with us. We'll get you that information as soon as it's released from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office.
An important message from Cody there.
Absolutely. I think it's so easily forgotten that these are real people's lives. And so we have to be respectful of that. And we are making sure that we get you accurate information. Even though social media might have other things out there, we don't always know if it's accurate. And Cody will have that first for you. We'll be on scene all day, all night for you as well.
Absolutely. Right now, Jarvis Robertson is standing by live there in Simpsonville outside of Brookwood Church, where all of those students and faculty have been brought this afternoon. And he has John Gray live right now, Pastor John Gray, who just got to the scene. I would imagine, Jarvis, to really comfort and pray with these people.
And that is exactly so, Tori. I heard you and Mac mention that these are real people's lives that we're dealing with right now, and that is exactly what we were talking about. Pastor John Gray of Relentless Church. So you've been here for, what time did you get here today?
I don't even know. It's been within the last hour. I wanted to get here as soon as I heard. I wanted to get to the parents because I understand there was some terrible conflict with parents trying to get to their children. You can't even imagine the emotions. And then seeing the students and seeing their faces, these blank stares on these kids' faces, it really has deeply impacted me. Tanglewood is a school that we have invested resources into. One of our elders, Brandon Montgomery, has a nonprofit called FAB, and they mentor these kids every week. We have invested heavily into FAB, and it's our church members that stand alongside of Brandon, and we're making sure they get food and clothing and mentorship. So this hits very close to home. I apologize for my attire. I was not dressed for tragedy. You know, I ran up here as soon as I heard. And so I'm just deeply troubled by a society that doesn't seem to get it yet, that we need to have this moment. Instead of just candlelit vigils and soggy teddy bears, we need to have a mea culpa around what matters from a values standpoint, from a parenting standpoint, from a conflict resolution standpoint. And as a pastor, of course, I have a spiritual perspective on everything, but there's a practical component that needs to be addressed as well. I remember in 1987, a man named Billy Rankin, a teenager from my school, was shot and killed at his home, and I remember the pain of that moment as if it was right now.
I'm happy that you mentioned having that experience. You also mentioned the blank stares on those students' faces. How do they make sense of this? How do the parents make sense of this and talk to their students and get them through this?
You know, it's one thing to see movies that perpetuate gun violence. It's another to have it happen in real time in your 14-year-old, 13-year-old mind. They're going to need counseling. They're going to need patience. They're going to need intergenerational connectivity. We're going to, as a community, have to embrace this school and these students. And I hope that we don't say, well, it's not in my neighborhood, so it doesn't affect me. If it doesn't affect you, then that's the problem. This is not a localized thing. It can happen to anyone at any time. And that's what today really represents. And I think we need to have that conversation, and we need to be as invested in the long-term health and mental health of these kids as anything else we could do right now. It's one thing for me to pray. It's another to add practical application to conflict resolution and civility, and to handle things or people that you don't agree with care, and to be agreeably disagreeable. It's okay to say, I don't agree with that. It's not okay to lift a hand or to pull out a gun. But this is the society that we live in, and we don't have legislation in place that keeps those kids covered. And I don't know that the parents understand how valuable their insight and protection and covering is at home. I really believe this starts at home.
Practical application. You know, thoughts and prayers are certainly appreciated, but what do we do beyond that? Pastor John Gray, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So about 5 minutes ago, I spoke with an EMT worker who was coming out of the building, who told me that probably about 20 students were in. A lot of students have still come out since then. So the students are practically almost gone here, but we're still going to stay here, continue to find out what we can, and bring you guys more. Back to you in studio.
Jarvis, thank you. Some insight there from Pastor John Gray out in the community this afternoon as we continue to cover that school shooting happening at 12:30 this afternoon in Greenville County there at Tanglewood Middle School. We have extended team coverage continuing for you as we enter the 5:30 hour in the next 15 minutes. Make sure you stay with us as we're learning more information. Plus, we'll have an interview with Governor Henry McMaster. First time doing that. Welcome back. We continue our team coverage of the heartbreaking school shooting here in Greenville County at Tanglewood Middle School that happened this afternoon just after 12:30. And we want to recap what we know right now. We have had our crews out on scene since this happened. My co-anchor Cody Alcorn went to the scene right away when we heard about this. And here's what we know at the moment. We can tell you that one student has been shot. They were transported to Prisma Health into the trauma center there. We are still working to get an update from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. Once more is confirmed, we will bring that to you live right here on air. We can also tell you that a suspect was taken into custody this afternoon. Cody was out on scene actually when he witnessed that happen firsthand in the moment. We heard from Sheriff Hobart Lewis. We heard from Greenville County School Superintendent Royster about all of this, confirming that the two involved were in fact students. That this happened in the front part of the school. As Sheriff Hobart Lewis said, this is a very trying situation right now. All of the students there at Tanglewood Middle School, 6th through 8th graders, near 800 of them, not including the teachers, the faculty, or the staff, were then all transported to Brookwood Church in Simpsonville. That is the safe place that they were brought to be reunited with their families this afternoon. We have been bringing you live interviews from families, from students who were there on scene. We heard from a 6th grader saying we had to go hide under tables on a stage and we were told to be quiet when we heard shots ring out in school in the middle of the afternoon. Everybody is very shaken from this. Again, these are young kids we're talking about today, and not to mention the faculty there at the school. But we are monitoring the situation, waiting for those updates. Stay with us as we learn more. Right now, we do want to change it up and go over to Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent, who was tracking some of that severe weather that we saw early this morning. Kendra, thankfully, it didn't bring too much to worry about like last week. It's blown out of here, and now we have the sunshine.
That's right. You know, it's really tough driving conditions this morning, a lot of heavy rain and some mild flooding, but that's all out of here. We've had reports, a couple reported tornadoes between Raleigh and Charlotte with the line as it was moving away from our area, but we missed that severe weather. We've been watching a few storms try to pop in our far northern North Carolina mountain counties, but nothing has developed into anything all that strong, luckily, and is moving away from our area. So a drying trend ahead. Wind continues to be an issue. You know, I was talking to some of our crews out there, of course, out covering the school shooting, and this is blowing around everything. I know that adding just one extra level of stress, I think, trying to get out and get the kids and cover the story. And it looks like this wind is going to start to go down as we go into the overnight hours. But not only is that wind a nuisance for all of us, but it's causing the wildfires to be much worse as well. So we have to keep that in mind, that situation is just going to continue in eastern Tennessee. Temperatures tomorrow morning will be in the 40s. It'll be chilly, and that sun rising right around 718. So chilly nights are ahead, but some mild sunny days. We get some really nice days ahead or after the terrible weather we dealt with this morning. Our next storm threat, some heavy rain possible on Tuesday. Here's your 3-day outlook. Mostly sunny, a little breezy still on Friday, unfortunately, but then the wind will calm down as we go throughout the weekend. Our next chance of rain, it's going to arrive from the south and west. This is Tuesday of next week. So we have a little while to wait on this, but we could end up with some strong storms. Right now, most of the models keep most of that energy south of us, but we will be watching closely because it's just that time of year. There's a lot of dynamics to produce severe weather. And as we go into Wednesday, a lot of that's going to clear out. We might still have a few showers. So here's your 7-day forecast. Mostly sunny Friday through the weekend. Next chance of rain comes Tuesday. That's when we'll have the best coverage, but still a few showers could linger on Wednesday in the mountains. Look at this forecast for the upstate this weekend. Absolutely beautiful. Highs in the upper 60s Saturday, right around 70 on Sunday, and then a good chance of showers and storms by Tuesday into Wednesday of next week.
Kendra, thanks for that update. And we just got some new information within the last minute or so from the family of the victim in this shooting, from a press release. And this is what we would like to share with you right now. This is according to activist Bruce Wilson. It says, the Jackson family has asked us to release the following in regards to the shooting at Tanglewood Middle School. A statement on behalf of the family of Jamari Cortez Bonaparte Jackson, quote, we are all devastated by today's tragedy. We love Jamari dearly, and we would ask that our privacy be respected as we grieve during this very difficult time. The Jackson family. That was just released to our newsroom from the family firsthand as we are working to learn more information from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office about exactly what happened there at today's school shooting there at Tanglewood Middle School. As we can tell you, 2 students were involved, one being the shooter, the suspect, who is now in custody, and the other, the student, who we now know the name Jamari Cortez Bonaparte Jackson. We are waiting to learn his status from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. But again, we have live coverage for you. As you can see, we're still out there at the school as the investigation continues. We'll have coverage coming back. We'll check in with Cody Alcorn and more of our team there at Brookwood Church in Simpsonville right after the break.
Good afternoon. We have actually moved locations. I'm now right in front of Tanglewood Middle School, where a school shooting happened at around 12:30 this afternoon. I'm going to step out of the way. Just in the last couple of minutes, the Greenville County Public School System is bringing in SUVs, and they are full of people who are being dropped off. And it appears these are some faculty and staff who are coming back to get their vehicles. A couple of buses have also been showing up, dropping people off. So what it appears is that faculty, staff, teachers are being allowed to come back and get their vehicles and leave the school, which is still considered a crime scene. As we heard from Sheriff Hobart Lewis a little while ago live during this newscast, the shooting happened in a hallway just around 12:30. And as I'm looking on this bus here, there are adults on this bus. They're not students. So that does appear to be faculty and staff being allowed back at the school to get their belongings. But we do know around 12:30, the SRO called for emergency backup for shots fired. When they got inside the school, they did find the gunshot victim. And you just heard that statement read by Margaret Ann Torrey. And if you're just tuning into us, I will read that statement again. And I want to reiterate, the sheriff's office has not confirmed anything regarding this student's condition. But the family of Jamari Cortez Jackson says, we are all devastated by today's tragedy. We love Jamari dearly, and we would ask that our privacy be respected as we grieve during this very difficult time. And that was from the Jackson family through a local community activist. While the family has put out that statement, again, there is information right now we are working to confirm through the lead agency, which is the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, and we are told that will be coming out soon. What we do know is that the suspect, the middle school student who we are told opened fire in the hallway, is currently being interviewed by the Greenville County Sheriff's Office homicide team. What we're working on to find out is, will this student be charged as an adult because of his age? So we'll see what happens. As we've talked about, I witnessed this student being arrested just one street over from Tanglewood Middle School after hiding out. He had his back to me. We have pictures of this young man being handcuffed with deputies around him. He was dressed in all black. And I do want to reiterate, we have seen things on social media. We've seen comments from other students. We don't know any more than what the sheriff's office has released to us because, again, they are trying to gather the facts and compare what they're hearing from student statements to what they see on surveillance inside from what the shooter is telling them. And I want to be very clear on why sometimes information does not get out immediately through the investigating agency. There are some things they do not want out there that could throw this investigation. There's some information they don't want certain people to know that they know. And there's certain information they don't want the suspect or maybe someone close to him to know about the investigation so they can ask questions and get the truth out of what happened. We don't know if the suspect is talking, but we do know he is actually being investigated right now. So again, we are out here at Tanglewood Middle School where we have now confirmed a school shooting with the victim's family putting out a statement talking about the tragedy. We're going to have continuing coverage, of course, out here through 6:30 tonight. Stay with us for live team coverage of devastating news happening in the Greenville County community.
Welcome back to the 5 o'clock news. Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent joining us now after we saw a pretty active morning, a lot of rain and wind blowing through the upstate. Things really cleared out. It's a really nice, calm day now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very pleasant evening out across the area. We do have a breeze out there, and that's something to keep in mind, but it's not nearly as strong as it was, say, 2 or 3 hours ago, especially for the mountains. It's improved quite a bit. So just a few of those puffy clouds over Greer, a lot of blue sky. We had a couple showers up in the mountains that have since fizzled. The severe weather threat has really shifted off toward the eastern Carolinas, but we did have a couple of reported tornadoes close to the Raleigh area, and even a couple tornado warnings just outside of our area for areas like Chester County, York County, and closer to Charlotte. So it was a close call for us, but that morning rain really helped to keep things a little more stable for us before the atmosphere energized. And those heavy showers have moved out of the mountains. We're looking at that wind continuing to be an issue overnight, and into the Smokies, we're going to be dealing with those strong winds, which will continue the risk for fire and spreading that wildfire through eastern Tennessee. So it's not really getting better. Wind direction is shifting, though, to the west. 46 tonight, mostly clear. It will be a chilly one, so make sure the kids have their, instead of their rain jacket like they had this morning, just a regular old jacket in the morning. 41 for mostly clear skies in the mountains. So chilly nights are ahead. Really the next several, you're going to want that jacket early in the morning. Mild sunny days, though, you're going to really love that weekend forecast. Our next storm system gets here on Tuesday. So here's a quick look at your 3-day outlook, as it's going to be breezy on Friday, but settles down this weekend. Really quite nice weather. Temperatures will be right around normal for this time of year.
Kendra, thanks for that weather update. Now we continue our coverage of the school shooting from this afternoon at Tanglewood Middle School in Greenville County. Our Jarvis Robertson has been on scene outside the school for us, and we saw him change locations to Brookwood Church there in Simpsonville, which is where all of those students, nearly 800 of them, 6th through 8th graders, along with faculty and staff, were brought. They were bused to this church as a safe place to be reunited with their families, Jarvis. And you said things have changed drastically now. It seems that all students have been accounted for and been picked up.
They have. I had a chance to speak with a couple of first responders and some of the crisis team members for the school district. As they were coming out, I asked if any more students were here. I was told no. So all of the students have been accounted for. They are all gone. They are back reunited with their family members, which I know that is something they are very, very appreciative of tonight. As we saw people coming out of the church today, there were still some tears on some of the students and the parents' faces, hugs, the sighs of relief, just because they were able to get their hands back on their loved ones. Now, even when I was over near the school, we saw that long line of buses. I mean, probably more than 30 buses, guys, all there at that school, ready to transport and move those students and faculty members out of the way so that investigators could go in and handle their investigation, and also have the parents come here to Simpsonville. So all clear here tonight at Brookwood Church. Again, in the last hour or earlier in this hour, you all saw that I had a chance to speak live with Pastor John Gray. He says that, of course, the thoughts and prayers are definitely appreciated, but it's now time to move to some practical application. He also talked about parents that should certainly talk to their children, let them know more about conflict resolution before they go and do things like pick up a gun. Even I had a chance to speak with a parent when I first got here. She said the same thing, and I spoke with them probably about 45 minutes apart, saying that parents need to certainly talk to their kids about handling those conflict resolutions. So again, here tonight, things have calmed down, Victoria. Tori, they're back with their family members, their friends, their loved ones, and trying to process and make sense of all that has gone on today. That is what they're going to be focused on moving forward. So when they get back to school in the coming days, I can only imagine how those students are going to feel. Tori?
And Jarvis, you got out to Brookwood Church there in Simpsonville rather quickly to kind of take in what was happening there with those buses coming in, with the parent pickup. Overall, it seemed like things went pretty smoothly. What would you say from your point of view? It got done very quickly, relatively quickly too.
Yeah, relatively quick. Remember, I did an interview in the last hour with a lady that I actually interviewed back over near the school. She said that she got here around 3:30, but she didn't get her child to 4:45. So she said that when they walked in, they figured out which pod which pod or which area the child was in, and then from there, that's when they were able to get the child. So that's why we saw the children and the parents coming out in more of bunches, as opposed to just constantly, steadily filing out, because they had to get the kids, they had to sign paperwork or sign paper just to make sure they were leaving with their guardian. Tori.
A lot of protocol in place, as you can imagine, just to make sure everything and everyone, I should say, was accounted for this afternoon. Jarvis Robertson, live for us there in Simpsonville. Thank you. And right now, we do have some new information from the shooting victim's family. We received a statement into our newsroom just moments ago from a local activist with the family statement. And here's what we can tell you right now. According to the Jackson family, quote, "We are all devastated by today's tragedy. We love Jamari dearly, and we would ask that our privacy be respected as we grieve during this very difficult time." We're learning Jamari Cortez Bonaparte Jackson was the student who was shot at today's school shooting at Tanglewood Middle School. And as we heard Cody Alcorn mention a little bit earlier, you're seeing a lot of different things being posted on social media by news outlets, by just rumors out there. And we are going to release information from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office when it is confirmed and when we get that from their investigation. We do not want to go out there and assume anything. So we are getting and we are working on getting you the most up-to-date information on the shooting victim and the suspect. Stay with us, so we will have continuing coverage as we enter the 6 o'clock hour here soon on Fox Carolina.
One-year-old Thomas McDowell from North Carolina has been charged with murder, kidnapping, and first-degree burglary. That's according to arrest warrants. Today at the hearing, Lexington County Magistrate Judge Buck ruled that McDowell could stand trial. The Lexington County Sheriff's Department says that he lived in Lexington in 1986 and was arrested at his home.
Over to our east, but some sunshine.
Welcome back as we enter hour 5 of our continued extended breaking news coverage of the school shooting at Tanglewood Middle School here in Greenville County. We want to give you a little bit of a recap of what we know and what we've confirmed for you right now. We're going to take you back to that scene around 12:30 this afternoon when those shots were fired inside of Tanglewood Middle School. We could tell you that a student suspect, was apprehended rather quickly by law enforcement. We had multiple agencies speed to the scene there to lock down that school. It was about an hour later that that student suspect was found, was brought into custody. We know that a student victim who was shot was rushed to Prisma Health, to the trauma center, to be treated for their injuries. Those buses you see in that video, those lines of buses were called in from the district throughout the Greenville County School District to take all of those students from Tanglewood Middle, along with all the teachers, the coaches, the faculty, the staff there, to bring them to Brookwood Church in Simpsonville. That was where they were being transported to be reunited with their loved ones. And we can tell you from our crews on scene there in Simpsonville that at this time now at 5:44, all students have been accounted for. They've been picked up by their loved ones. Right now, it's really all about that investigation, of course, making sure everybody is okay. And we know that what happened today will affect everybody involved, really forever. Moving forward. We were able to talk with some parents there at the scene this afternoon. Our Myra Ruiz talked with one mom who said something needs to change when it comes to security measures at this school.
They were trying to call me. I was just crying. I was desperate. I wanted to hear from my son. We need to put some of the metal detectors to go in that school because there's always fighting and all that stuff. And we need to, as parents, get together and go to Greenville County and say they need to protect our kids and put something there so we can know our kids are going to be safe from now on, because at this point I don't want my son to go back to school.
And that is the same message we've been hearing from multiple parents and also from students. We talked with 12-year-old students, 6th graders, at this school this afternoon who said that maybe what we can do, maybe we can have clear backpacks, maybe we can have those metal detectors. It's really a sad reality, but they're asking for something to be done today. And of course, the sheriff's office, the lead investigative unit in today's shooting, we talked with Sheriff Hobart Lewis from Greenville County, who said they are just praying and thinking of those families, of those students involved in this heartbreaking situation.
It's been a very trying situation for sure. Our heart goes out to the family, all the families involved. We certainly ask that you pray for the family of the victim for sure as information develops about his status, but also the children at the school. It's a very traumatic time for them. So please keep them and their families in your thoughts and prayers.
Now, these are 6th through 8th grade students, so they are very young. This is something that nobody was expecting, and certainly they really deserve all the prayers today. And we did receive a statement from the victim's family, the Jackson family, saying we are all devastated by today's tragedy. The victim, the family has identified as Jamari Cortez Bonaparte Jackson, and we are still working to confirm more information about the suspect and the victim from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office. Stay with us as we work to learn that information for you. Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent standing by now with a look at our forecast.
That's right, Tori. The good news is we're done with the heavy rain, the severe weather threat. We had a couple tornadoes, though, across the Carolinas between Charlotte and Raleigh earlier this evening, but now it's all starting to clear out. We're clear in most spots. We had a couple of showers in the high mountains, but those have really ceased. Now some rumbles of thunder not too far off from Boone, North Carolina, but we're going to notice things starting to clear up. And we've got winds that continue to be strong. We're seeing those out of the west right now. It's all because of a cold front that has passed through. 24-mile-per-hour wind in Greenville, though, and that's sustained. So it's still pretty windy out there, but as we go through the night, things will start to improve so that by Friday morning, we'll be looking at low 40s in the mountains. Wind that'll be settling a bit, but still a little breezy, so it make it feel a little cooler than this outside. Mid 40s across the upstate. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be right at normal for this time of year. 69 for a high. That's what you typically get for the start of April. It'll be April 1st tomorrow. 59 in the mountains. Normal is 64, so a little cooler than normal and the higher terrain. Now, we have a really nice stretch of weather ahead, but we're always looking to the next big thing, and it looks like we're going to deal with some rain next week on Tuesday. May come Tuesday evening. That's been the consensus of the models, and this batch could pack a little bit of severe weather. Right now, this doesn't look like a huge severe weather maker for us, but we'll be monitoring it closely into Tuesday night, Wednesday, and even during the day Wednesday, we'll have some lingering showers, but we should begin to clear out the second half of the day. So here's a look at your forecast for the mountains. Mostly sunny. Isn't that nice to see after this morning, dealing with that heavy rainfall? And I tell you, just trying to get my kids to school this morning was an adventure, that's for sure. We had some even minor flooding in spots because of all that rain. Early next week, it'll stay sunny. So we've got 4 really nice days ahead, and then we're going to have a chance for some storms Tuesday into Wednesday. Again, right now, this doesn't look like a big severe weather maker for us, but it will certainly impact you. Some decent rainfall and perhaps some thunderstorms. In the upstate, mostly sunny skies tomorrow, high of 69. We keep it mild Saturday, 60s, but warmer on Sunday at 70. It's the kind of weather I would just order up if I could. And then going into next week, we'll have a chance for some scattered storms Tuesday into Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Since 4:30?
Mic check. Mic check 1 2.
Welcome back. We continue our coverage of breaking news this afternoon in Greenville County at Tanglewood Middle School, as we've been following this school shooting. It happened around 12:30 this afternoon, where 2 students were involved. One, the suspect, the other, the victim. We just got information from the victim's family this afternoon in a statement they released to us saying, "We are all devastated by today's tragedy." From the Jackson family, we're learning the victim's name, Jamari Jackson, there from Tanglewood Middle School. We are still waiting to get confirmation from the Greenville County Sheriff's Office about further information. But as you can see, we are still live there outside of the school. We're now being told a lot of the faculty and staff from Tanglewood have been bused back to the school to go get their belongings and to go get their vehicles, because when this was all unfolding, we told you that those buses from Greenville County School District were actually being brought in from different routes to take those close to 800 students and then all the staff to Brookwood Church in Simpsonville. That was the safe place where they were being brought to be reunited with families. So now a lot of the teachers are being brought back on those buses to go get their belongings. They had to leave at a moment's notice. Some of them telling us they didn't have their purse, their cell phones. So that is what you're seeing right now, as a live look from that middle school, as a lot of them are getting back to get their belongings at this point. But our Myra Louise has been out there live for us all afternoon when we started our coverage a little after 1 o'clock today. Initially, she was there outside of the middle school, but I know she's moved now to the LEC, the Law Enforcement Center here in Greenville County, where we're learning that is where the suspect has been brought right now, which we are still waiting to learn more information about that student. But what we learned from the sheriff when it comes to the suspect, at a certain point, Sheriff Hobart Lewis told us that the suspect didn't even realize maybe the severity of what went down this afternoon. And that really puts it into perspective. These are children. These are 6th to 8th grade students who were involved in this tragedy today. Myra, you're live out there at the LEC. Just an overall devastating day for this community.
Most certainly is. Now, this is where all the minds would likely come together. I know they do a lot of investigating away from this law enforcement center and closer to where the incident happened, but definitely there will be a lot of talking over exactly what happened as they meet here and, speak to the suspect who was taken into custody not long after they responded to the scene. So they will be trying to answer many questions, but one, as you mentioned, they may never be able to answer is why this even happened. Yes, the sheriff did kind of allude to how it would appear that the young teen maybe was not even aware of the severity of his actions and may not have understood the consequences of what happened. But, this is something that the sheriff's office will definitely try to work through and provide some answers to all the families of the students there who now have so many questions. We did hear from some of the parents who reunited with their child, and it's certainly a very traumatic day for those middle school children, especially those who could hear the gunfire and, fear for their lives, having to take cover. But a lot of answers yet to be answered, and a lot of that will be taking place right here at the Greenville County Law Enforcement Center. Back to you.
And Myra, when we spoke with you earlier this afternoon, you talked to a parent specifically live who was talking about security features and safety measures there at Tanglewood Middle School. I believe she was saying how there have been fights before and something must change, specifically having to deal with metal detectors. And it seemed like that was really the same sentiment echoed from multiple parents on scene.
Most definitely. That was Nancy Trejo who we spoke to, and I don't know if we have that soundbite now and you'd like to play it, but she has been reunited with her son Isaac, and very relieved to have him back in her arms. But she was definitely calling for more metal detectors. or any period, because there are none right now.
Right. No, absolutely. Myra Ruiz live for us. Thank you for that update. And speaking of security measures, our team coverage continues as Margaret Ann Carter has left the desk this afternoon, and she is out live awaiting Governor McMaster. And I know, Margaret Ann, the big question on so many people's minds, especially these parents, safety and these metal detectors and what can be done moving forward.
Yeah, the question is, how bad does it have to get before we take extra safety measures in schools? And I mean, these are the questions that are coming in from parents. What do we do? Do we do clear backpacks? Do we do metal detectors? Do we put SRO in every single school here across the country? Those are all the questions that we're going to be talking to Governor Henry McMaster about live in just a couple of minutes. We are waiting for him to arrive. He was actually here scheduled to speak with the Manufacturing Alliance. And after today's school shooting at Tanglewood Middle, they said, you know what, we're switching gears. We're not going to talk about manufacturing. All focus is going to be on the school shooting and how to prevent this in the future. So we are going to have details on that coming up live for you in just the next couple of minutes. As soon as he arrives here in Greenville, we're going to let you know more about that and asking him all the questions that we have this afternoon for you as well, Tori.
All right, Mac, we will make sure to get back out live with you in the next couple of minutes with Governor McMaster, who is standing by for that live interview. I know we certainly have a lot of questions for him this afternoon.
Fox Carolina, the 6 o'clock news starts right now with breaking news.
And welcome into the 6 o'clock news as we continue our coverage of the school shooting there at Tanglewood Middle School here in Greenville County. And we've been learning some new information as we just got that statement from the school shooting victim's family, identifying the victim as Jamari Jackson, saying they are absolutely devastated about today's tragedy. We love Jamari dearly, and we would ask that our privacy be respected as we grieve during this very difficult time. And as we all know, this is a heartbreaking situation for so many in this community. Our Cody Alcorn has been live on scene of this shooting all afternoon for us. Cody, to hear from family, it's just very heartbreaking for all of us.
It is heartbreaking. Hundreds of students impacted by this tragedy today. Now, I do want to let you know the crime scene was just released. There is no more crime scene tape up. Deputies have left the entrance. The only thing in the parking lot right now is the command center is still set up, and there are several Greenville County deputies and investigators still here. But in the last, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, at least a dozen or more deputies, including the sheriff himself, have left the scene. Forensics, they have left the scene. They have wrapped up their crime scene evidence collecting as well. So all we have here now is just, again, a few Greenville County deputies along with the command center. They're likely breaking that down right now. We've seen a number of faculty and staff being bussed in either by the standard yellow buses or even some Greenville County Public Schools SUVs have been seen coming in with some faculty and staff as well. So it does appear they have released this crime scene back to the Greenville County Public Schools, with the sheriff's office wrapping up their investigation, at least here. We do know there are some parallel investigations. Likely the suspect, his home has been searched. They had a search warrant for that, collecting evidence there about where this gun came from, how this young man got the gun, and then how he got it into the school. And did anybody know that this was going to happen? Did anybody know he had the gun and did not report this to administration? Did they miss this? Was it on social media? The sheriff said that himself. Also, right now, that suspect being interviewed down at the LEC, that's the Law Enforcement Center as you come into downtown Greenville. We do not know if he's cooperating yet. We're working to get that. Myra Ruiz actually saw his dad on scene. So again, their family's impacted by this as well, along with the Jackson family, who just devastating, who dropped their middle school student off or put him on a bus this morning, and would be the last time they see that family member. And all he did today was wake up and come to school as hundreds of school children did here in Tanglewood Middle School. I'm not for sure if we have the sound, if you guys can let me know, but I interviewed the sheriff a little earlier, and I asked the sheriff what happens from here, because again, this isn't the last you're going to hear from this. This is going to be a conversation. We're going to hear from the governor in just a minute, but I asked the sheriff, as the lead law enforcement agent here in the county, you're the sheriff, the highest ranking, where do we go from here? And this is what the sheriff said.
Our metal detectors in the future at Greenville County Schools, we don't know. We do know they've looked at that. Obviously, any type of weapon being brought into a school. You know, it's unfortunate that kids today look at so much violence, and they think that the end result, you know, I'm sure this young man don't have any idea really what the end result was going to be when he shot this young man. He probably knew he was going to shoot him. He didn't know if he was going to die or live. But after it happened, you know, what was this young man thinking? What was he going through? I'm almost positive he didn't realize what was fixing to happen to him.
And I saw that young man being arrested shortly after I got on scene here, just a few hundred yards away after he left the school following the shooting. His back was turned to me. 3 or 4 deputies were around him and put him in cuffs and took him right down to the LEC, where he has been interviewed, or at least sitting there for a while before detectives got down there to talk to him. The question this afternoon, will these charges be filed as adult charges? What's going to happen here? That's the next step. We're looking into that. And you can imagine, this is the largest school district in the state, and there will be a lot of people looking at the superintendent. What are you going to do to protect our kids? Because hundreds of parents sent their kids here to Tanglewood Middle School today, and it's any normal day, and many of them started getting word around noon something happened inside this school. And as the sheriff told me in that live interview during the 5 o'clock news, this suspect pulled out a gun in the hallway and for some reason opened fire. And one victim is too many, but thank God there was only one victim here. If this was in the hallway and there are many students around, we've heard reports that some students ran back into classrooms, locked the door, were told to hide, and don't say a word. So you can imagine just the fear in a lot of these kids. And we do know that apparently at some point this suspect ran out of the school, because there was an SRO officer in the school not far away, according to the sheriff, and this kid got out. He ran somewhere in the direction behind me on my left, and he was caught, again, just one street over, and that's where I saw him being handcuffed. So was this a targeted attack? Was it a random attack? We don't know. But we'll be finding out in the coming days. As the sheriff mentioned, there is a lot of investigation to go on here. The crime scene's pretty condensed. It's going to be in the hallway. They were probably looking at projectile. Where was the shooting happening? Forensics can map this out. Program where they can see how it unfolded. Security systems are in place, cameras. They will be looking at the cameras to see if that matches with what they were told, and can they follow this as it unfolded? Can you watch him? Can you see where he pulled the gun out of? Where did he have the gun hidden? Again, the main questions here: did somebody know leading up to this? Did someone drop the ball? Did someone just not report this? And how did this kid get this gun? Again, we can sit back here after it happened and point a lot of fingers, but one thing is certain: something's got to change. Talk to your kids. Bringing a gun to school and shooting another student is not the solution. The sheriff mentioned this kid has no idea how his life has just changed forever. This middle school student, I believe we've been hearing he's in the 7th grade, the suspect, I mean, for all terms and circumstances, his life is over. 2 families destroyed here. The suspect's family will live with this, the victim's family, and all of these kids. I mentioned this during our live coverage earlier. These kids are going to have to come back to this school, sit in a classroom, and they are going to have to know they're safe. Just think if someone drops a book. Again, the PTSD aspect of this, these kids experience the worst tragedy any of us have ever experienced today inside a place they're supposed to feel safe. So again, I mean, our thoughts and prayers are with these kids. And Tori, we cannot forget the first responders who ran into this school not knowing what they were going to see on the other side of that door, and scooped this kid up and gave him first aid until an EMS bus could get here, and scooped him up and transported him out. It's just a lot of people impacted by one stupid decision today inside the school.
And a county-wide effort with multiple agencies, as you mentioned, Cody, responding to the scene there at Tanglewood and making sure to get that school on lockdown with the SROs there to get those kids and the faculty out safely and bused to Brookwood Church in Simpsonville, as we saw. And you know, you were there. You were there on scene very quickly. Right after we heard reports of shots fired around 12:30. We know you couldn't get too close to the school. You were down a little bit down the road there. But what was that like being out there, really not knowing what exactly had gone down besides shots being fired inside of a middle school here in Greenville County, which is our home? Like you said, the biggest school district in the state of South Carolina, affecting so many people here in our community.
Tori, just like everybody else, I had law enforcement passing me. I knew something was going on in the county. Something bad had happened. When I came up onto Old Easley Bridge Road, I knew exactly, again, something bad had happened. I saw that ambulance taking that student being escorted down to Prisma. They were on Whitehorse Road. When I got up here and I saw people running to this scene, I actually parked way down Old Easley Bridge Road, ran with them. And I go back to when I pulled up to Townville Elementary School several years ago on that school shooting. It looked like that, but twice as bad. The sheriff mentioned there were over 200 first responders here on scene, more than 200 deputies, law enforcement, police, ATF, FBI responded. Everyone in the county that was working responded here when that call came out. And again, it's just one of those things we report this, we talk about it. Unfortunately, we've had to be on scene of one of these before, but it's not what you're expecting on a Thursday afternoon at lunch to get that call that someone has been shot. And I know that we have the governing master right now is going to talk about this tragedy.
Yes, Cody, we'll check in with you in a few minutes, but we do want to get to Margaret Ann Carter, who is live right now with Governor McMaster. She's asking him some questions about what we saw happen today and what we can do moving forward as a community to keep our students safe.
Absolutely. The governor just arrived here at the Poinsett Club. And Governor, I just want to ask you first off your reaction to this, and I understand that you have a statement as well.
Well, of course, it's tragic. Anything like this is tragic. There'll be at least 2 families crying all night long tonight, and a lot of other people as well. These senseless acts, but law enforcement responded extremely well. We've got great law enforcement in South Carolina. There was a school resource officer was on the scene, I understand, but of course too late to do anything. It was after the fact, but immediate. But it's just tragic. We have resource officers. We've made them available in all the schools. Some of them have had difficulty finding someone to take the job, but also mental health counselors. We know that. A lot of people will be wondering what the tensions of the last couple of years with the virus and the people not being in school and all the things that resulted from that, what impact that had on this. But any way you look at it, it's a tragedy.
It absolutely is.
And I would urge everyone to keep all the families involved in their prayers.
Absolutely. And the one thing that immediately parents are turning to now, they're talking about metal detectors, clear backpacks. What do we do? What has to be done in order to stop this from happening in the future?
Well, all of the above. There are financial limits that would have to be met. But we as communities, we have to always realize that these things will happen if we don't take care of our children. We have to be sure they're safe. We have to be sure they have good role models. We have to be sure that that's why we want people to have jobs and be working and have the resources available to do the things necessary. We have to have excellent education. But it is, any way you look at it, this is just tragic.
You mentioned financial limitations. What has to be done to get metal detectors in schools? Because that's the main concern.
Well, I imagine if the school districts, and there's a lot of money now that is going to the school districts, so a lot of them have money they've been part of the federal programs for the last couple of years.
have school, but whether it be anywhere in Greenville County, anywhere in South Carolina, how do you reassure them as our leader that their kids are safe?
Well, we do everything we can. As I mentioned, we have great law enforcement in our state and in this county. I've spoken to Sheriff Lewis today as well as Chief Keel. Law enforcement responded properly, but this but and tragedies happen, and it tears us apart.
Is there anything? Okay, is there anything that can be done on the state level to get funding for these schools, to get those metal detectors, to get any kind of enforcement?
That's what I mentioned earlier. Those are the kind of things that we've been doing. And it's been the funding for the school resource officers in every school all throughout the state. The mental health counselors in every school throughout the state. Some don't have them on site, but they are available.
On the state level, there's federal funding out there. So there's different things that are being done to prevent things like this from happening, yet they aren't being prevented because it happened again today. So, of course, going forward, what conversations need to be had, that's something that we're going to have to see and, of course, continue to follow up on, Tori.
Margaret Ann Carter.
I can also confirm right now that the 12-year-old student accused of shooting Jamari is on his way to DSS down in Columbia. He has been charged with murder, possession of a weapon during a violent crime, possession of a firearm on school property, and unlawful possession of a weapon by a person under the age of 18. I did ask if he will be charged as an adult. They say that's kind of up in the air right now, but they do believe under that home's deck. So when I saw him being arrested, he had just been pulled out from underneath a deck there and was taken into custody. I'm told the gun was found there near where he was captured, just a few hundred yards away. And again, to reiterate, this is breaking news here at 6. The suspect, a 12-year-old student here at with the thought of pulling it out and shooting the specific victim. Again, that's something they're going to work on. The other part of this release that's interesting, and of course we've been talking about this, how did this 12-year-old get this gun? And at any point today, did anyone realize this gun was missing and did not notify law enforcement, or did someone in this school know prior to 12:23 when shots rang out that this was going to happen? Here we are, 6 o'clock at night. We can't change what happened. No one can. But there will be things that we'll learn from this shooting today to try and prevent another innocent kid from being shot inside a school. So, Tori, that's the latest. That's what we've been working to get all day long. It's a heartbreaking update because, again, you have a 12-year-old who was killed in a hallway and a 12-year-old student accused of killing that kid. It's a tragedy no matter how you look at it, all the way around. These kids, one lost his life and the other, you can say, lost his life today too, because he'll probably spend the rest of his life in a jail cell.
Yeah, just 2 children. Just heartbreaking all around. Cody Alcorn, thank you. And we'll be right back after the break. Being questioned. Just check the tech. Okay. Also, I was going to say, and welcome back. We are continuing our coverage of the school shooting there at Tanglewood Middle School this afternoon in Greenville County, as we just learned some devastating information all around. According to the Greenville County Sheriff's Office, we can tell you that the 12-year-old victim, Jamari Cortez Bonaparte Jackson, has died due to this shooting today, and another 12-year-old student pulled the trigger. My co-anchor Cody Alcorn has been live on scene there at Tanglewood Middle School all afternoon for us since we went on air just after 1 o'clock. And Cody, not what any of us wanted to hear at the end of the day here. It's just devastating for so many in this community, for these families, for Greenville County as a whole, really.
Yeah, this is going to be something talked about in this school district for years to come. It will be a part of history now here at Tanglewood Middle School. I do want to let you know that the scene just wrapped up. The command center just pulled out. The last remaining deputies are leaving here. So the crime scene just released in the last couple of minutes as their investigation here on scene has wrapped up. What now, 6.5 hours after they first responded to the reports of shots fired. And now here we are. We have a 12-year-old on the way to DJJ in Columbia to be housed until he has a court hearing through family court. And we have another family, and this is just about as honest as you can be, now preparing to bury their 12-year-old loved one. And all he did today was show up to this school to get an education. It is heartbreaking, and this will be something talked about in the school district and among first responders and law enforcement. How do you stop this from happening, or how can you prevent it? The answer might not be we can't, but I know there will be conversations to have. Could a metal detector have worked today? You heard the sheriff say they're going to look into it, because this 12-year-old somehow got his hands on a gun, rode a bus, or was dropped off from school here at Tanglewood Middle, had that gun on him since, what o'clock, 8 o'clock this morning, and then at 12:23 got it out and opened fire. A lot of questions still need to be answered here, but I think the most important thing is keeping these victims' families in your thoughts and prayers. This is heartbreaking. As you can imagine, 100+ parents were rushing to this school or rushing to Brookwood not knowing if it was their child, and one family out of all of these kids got that phone call. Your child is not on a bus. Your child is at the ER at Prisma. It's will give you chill bumps when you're out here and start to grasp what's happened, because I think for a while your adrenaline's going, you're telling what's happening, then everything's over, the scene's clearing, and now you're realizing a 12-year-old, a kid, lost his life today for no reason. First responders, they're going to be debriefed this evening. You had men and women rushing to this school, and they found that young kid right there on the ground, many of them parents themselves. So it's just not this faculty, it's just not the staff, it's just not students. First responders, the nurses who worked on these kids, the 911 dispatchers trying to get people here as fast as they could, and of course that SRO officer as well, Tori.
Yeah, all around, community-wide, really here. Cody, thank you for your live coverage this afternoon. And we will continue to follow up throughout the night here at Fox Carolina. We'll have continuing coverage coming up tonight on the 10 o'clock news. We will have the latest. As we know, the suspect here charged with murder is on the way to the DJJ in Columbia, just 12 years old. Of course, we are continuing to pray for those involved and the 12-year-old victim in this. The Jackson family, Jabari Jackson, who is no longer here with us this afternoon. But stay with us as we continue to monitor when a bond hearing will happen. For more coverage, you can always head to foxcarolina.com or our social media pages. But thank you for staying with us throughout this afternoon. Continue to pray for those involved at Tanglewood Middle School, and we'll see you back here tonight at 10.